Welcome. It's the January 13th, 2020 Sewer and Water Commissioners meeting. The hour being after 7 o'clock, bring the meeting to order. The abatements have been signed. Minutes of September 16th, December 16th. Thank you, Mary. I have, I think, three items. On the second page, Mary, on the last item, the low income rate assistance program, in the first sentence, at the end it says the commission has a will to I think that's misspelled there, devise. On the next page, on the second to last line, it says people are adhering to the more you use, the more it costs, so using less based on our pumpage. So I would insert, or after so, that they are using less. I think that would just make it clearer. And on the next page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14th line, which midway says, Mr. Abbott asked how it was made up in 17 and 18, as he does not recall, I would say, a town meeting article, as opposed to an article, just to clarify what we're talking about. Anyone else have any other suggestions, changes?
Just on the third page.
Third page.
At the very top line, just for clarity, Eversource, I spoke with Eversource, and Walpole currently has 43 households in Walpole. Just to clarify, that qualify for rate assistance, after Walpole.
Okay. Any other changes? If not, entertain a motion to approve the minutes of December 16.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 500, Mary. Superintendent status report. Bernie?
Good evening, Mr. Chairperson and distinguished board. I have for you tonight an announcement. Chris Smith, who had been a 7-year employee with the Water and Sewer Department, has handed his resignation in on New Year's Eve. Chris's last day was yesterday.
Oh.
So we will be looking for a water technician. That position will be, it'll be sent out to the union as well as to the public, and I believe that's already been taken care of. We have interviewed for a pump station operator. That's been a vacancy for a bit. We did have one gentleman come in for an interview, showed some promise, but ended up, we decided not to go with that candidate, and we do have one other tomorrow that's coming in for an interview as well for that position. And then last week we interviewed 4 for a laborer's position, and 2 we felt were competent for the job, and they'll be forwarded to the town administrator for a future interview as well. DLMR is still working on our well cleaning. We just had a pump and a column replaced down at Minebrook 2, and they're continuing to address this, the cleaning of the Minebrook wells in that area. We had an issue with the Texaco booster pump that I reported last month. The booster pump has been rebuilt and is placed back in service. We've had 2 water main breaks, major water main breaks on a 2-inch high pressure line of Washington Street within the last week, and they've been taken care of as well. Wright Pierce is also looking right now to retrofit options for the delinquent capital item that we have for our waste basins, and that's ongoing. We are reviewing an RFQ for our SCADA upgrades that was sent by our sister station over in Wellesley, sister plant rather. They had the same issue as well with some of their SCADA equipment, and we're working with them because of the privacy aspect of the SCADA system that we have. So we're working at that also for a capital project. Weston and Sampson is soon to go out to bid for our 2 sewer pump station upgrades, Leonard Street and Chandler Road rather. Weston and Sampson is also working on the next phase of I&I removal program, and that'll begin in the spring. The Baker Street water main replacement has been finished, and it was a huge success. They did it in great time. I'd like to take a minute to say that PJ Hayes did an excellent job. We had a few bumps in the road, but other than that, they did a fantastic job in that project. Water distribution continues with maintenance, hydrants, and trench patching. The Robbins Road Septic Facility capital project, the gentleman that was awarded the bid for that project has dropped a dumpster and is going to be starting because the weather has been very apparent that they can do some work as of right now because of the fair weather that we've had this January. So that should be starting up middle of this week into next week. And the generator contract at Washington Street for our booster station that was supposed to be online today. Unfortunately, they had an issue with a transfer switch that was actually sent. They ordered the right thing, the wrong part came in. It was found when they started it up. And also, we have a problem with a restriction in the gas line, and both of those, I'm told, are going to be addressed tomorrow. So that should be taken care of and online, I'm hoping by week's end.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Any questions? Anything?
Bernie, just give an update on filter rate.
I'm sorry?
Filter rate.
I'm sorry, filter 8 has been down. We had the same situation back in 2017 with filter number 7. It needs a total rehab, and we have that cost, and we're working on that procurement right now. It's a privacy type of thing. It's through Roberts Filter, and we're working towards getting that resolved as well. So we're down to 7 filters in this plant and not 8.
These are proprietary, are
They
these,
are
are
proprietary.
these the green sand filters?
They are. So it's gonna have to be rebuilt from bottom up.
Okay. We've done that in the past.
We have,
Yeah.
it's costing around $80,000.
And you have it in your budget.
We do.
Good.
How long might that take?
Hopefully that'll be done within the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
Anything else, Rick? Did you, anything else? Okay. We have a couple things before we get on to our 7:15 appointment. Comment request number 1 from the planning board. This is a revised plan for the New Pond Village. And they basically have responded. I didn't see anything that would require any
Do we have a new
response
plan
from
or
us.
anything?
Any,
They haven't changed anything.
no.
Is there-
Patrick, you,
Wasn't there something on the side street there that we were looking at?
I don't recall, but
There was something
take
about,
a look there. This is New Pond Village.
I know, these are the standalone buildings, right?
Yep.
Didn't we have a connection to Bullitt Street here? Or wasn't there a plan to have one?
Yes, no, we do. It's in place, already in place.
Yeah.
It was in place when they constructed the original site.
Okay, so there is that one, okay, that's what I want.
Okay.
Thank you,
You're all set, Pat?
I'm all set.
Okay. I don't think they don't appear to be asking for a comment, just alerting us. I don't think we need to make a response. Comment request 2 from the Conservation Commission, NRAD for Pinnacle Place.
Yeah, I abstained from discussing this. It's my house, my lot, so I
Okay.
won't discuss or vote on it. It's nothing to vote on, really. It's
They're just,
conservation delineation.
yeah. I don't think that there's any action needed on us for an NRAD at this point, for a single house. Comment request number 3, also from the Conservation Commission. an amended order of conditions from the Conservation Commission for the,
Doesn't affect us.
this is the project on East Street, the Pennington Crossing,
Doesn't affect us.
and
You wanna
that's
give us the
correct.
gazebo?
Well, the only thing is that when they build the new clubhouse, they'll be charged the fees, the connection fees.
Okay,
That's basically the only reason why we put it on.
all right. Josette?
You're talking about a clubhouse there is no clubhouse unless they've added one.
They have,
They have added.
Yeah.
Okay, because they were using the center in their brochures and came down and actually got literature from the senior center to give out to prospective residents. So now they're being forced to do it on their own.
And at the time of the building permits, they'll be required to have their entrance fees paid to the water department.
All right. Correspondence one, this is Burns Ave, it's 40B, waiver requests. I think the only one that relates to us is sewer and water fees, which is on the last page. And our position is that we don't waive the fees. So I'll accept a motion that we send a note to, I guess it's Ashley Clark, that what our position is. Is there a second to that?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Okay. Correspondence two. This is the regular information that I sent every month as to our position on revenue. In December, we had a large amount of revenue. And halfway through the year, we're up to $2.5 million. And if we mirrored this is actually the first 6 months, duplicated exactly what we did in the first 6 months, we would end up with 96% of our target, about a little over 200,000 shortfall. There's no guarantee that we would achieve that, but there are certainly many months, particularly early on, where we were way below. And another thing that would be in our favor is that from this point on, we are all using the 2020 fiscal year rates, whereas the early months, it was predominantly the FY19 and gradually shifting to a mix there. The sewer at this point is actually just 1% ahead of what one would have
How
expected.
could we possibly collect that much in December?
It depends on the,
People write their checks.
what we were billing for, and it was part of the summer. Remember, it's a 3-month billing, and it takes us about 40 days to get the thing out, and that's the reason that it's that large. So, that's a positive.
Is that
item.
I'm sorry to interrupt, is
Yes.
that town meeting request gonna fluctuate, or is that fluid based on our actual need?
Yeah, we won't
Yeah.
know what we need until the very, basically until town meeting at that point. But this is definitely a good sign.
It is.
And hopefully, as I say, we're halfway through, and I believe that it'll be interesting to see January's revenue, if it's somewhere in the vicinity of the December, as it's dealing with summer, I'm hoping. And then you look at the others, which we were way below what we need, if you divide the total amount by, 12 months, so. Anyways, we'll see, keep your fingers crossed. Correspondence,
It's almost 7:15.
what?
It's almost
I
7:15.
got 1 minute just to go to correspondence 3. This is also my regular listing of the update on pumping less water. And again, in December, we were lower than the average of the prior 3 years, so that process continues. At this point, the hour being 7:15, I see some distinguished gentlemen in the back there. We do have seats for you. When you're speaking, we'd like you to be on the mic, and you'll also be on
Make yourself
cable
comfortable in the
TV.
chair.
We'd ask that our legislative delegation come and we wanted to make them aware of our water withdrawal permit that's coming forward. And John, you're particularly interested in this, so if you want to lead on the discussion here.
Okay. Yes, in general, we can get the specific statistics from either Rick Mattson or Bernie, but essentially, our water withdrawal permit has expired. And it should have been renewed in 2018. This is 2020. And there's been rumblings around in other towns and so forth, and we've had some veiled inquiry and correspondence about this, but no direct request to help develop a proposal or an estimate of what we would need or like, or some guidelines from the state or from the DEP as to what their thoughts are, what their, motivation, strategy, and objectives are. So there's just it's a point of concern because Rick Mattson has sort of suggested to us that the state in general has been ratcheting down new permits instead of meeting or allowing for the natural growth and evolution of communities. They've been reducing, which would be a problem for towns like Walpole that are early in the growth curve. We're not mature like Dedham or Norwood, for example. So Walpole, I think I mentioned at the meeting of selectmen, Walpole, the Conservation Commission just finished a study, has 55% of our area is open space. And we have the Route 1 corridor development project tied in with Norwood and Foxborough, et cetera, to deal with. So there's a great likelihood that we have had a influx of many new residential units coming online, over 1,000. And not just that, but the other commercial opportunities of the vacant land and the redevelopment of Route 1 and the Route 1 corridor. So we're very concerned, and rather than be hit with a figure and then have to dig ourselves out of a foxhole for that, we would like to be proactive and at least make you aware, and I think maybe Rick and Bertie can tell you a little bit about what they've tried to do. But we're in the dark about, it seems like this is just gonna come mysteriously. Someday a letter's gonna come and give us a figure, and then we're gonna have to deal with it. And I guess we'd like, if someone is shaping a figure or dealing with it, we'd like to know who it is and what they're up to, and how can we have input in the process to make sure that this DEP understands the needs of Walpole. I mean, I think most of the people on the board here agree the vision and objective and mission of our board is to make sure there's adequate water for all the owners and residents and businesses that are coming to and are in Walpole. And so this is a concern, and we wanted to make you aware of it and see, maybe you have some guidance for us, some recommendations, and maybe we can fill in some of your questions or details about the status of this. It seems it's concerning because of the sole source aquifer, this type of thing, and we have made an overture to the town previously to have a supplemental water connection with the MWA through Norwood, so that we would have that backup if there was some emergency of some terrible type. And that hasn't come to fruition, so we haven't had that opportunity yet to have that insurance. So this is our concern, and I guess we'd like to enlist your expertise and your representation on behalf of the community to help to assist us in this matter. It's of major importance from a public policy point of view.
Just want, you're aware of that we have a water withdrawal permit. Okay,
Yes. Yep.
which just basically gives us an average per day
Right.
amount. Okay, and I don't know if you've run into problems with, or other concerns that other communities have had.
Regionally, no, not yet.
If you-
But I-
just for the,
Sure, for the record,
thing,
yeah.
if you could introduce yourself as well as to the camera there.
Absolutely. So Paul Feeney, State Senator from the Bristol and Norfolk District.
Ted Phillips from State Representative Lou Cappy's office.
Vernon Polchak, Representative Paul Murphy's office.
Thank you.
And I did hear from Representative Dooley, who has a family matter tonight, otherwise he would have come, but he sends his regrets.
Appreciate
for not
that.
being able to be here. So regionally, we haven't been running into this. I think every community is kind of in different phases, and not only with their, what they draw, but certainly in economic development and what they see coming down the road. Across the Commonwealth, this has been an issue, right? We've seen the DEP kind of rolling back, concerned about overpumping in every community across the Commonwealth. So they've taken the approach that they're really being conservative when it comes to the, understanding what the water needs forecasts are for each community. Had a discussion recently with DEP, who mentioned that DCR, I think, was working with the community to try and, at least get some information fed back to the DEP on what the future of Walpole looks like and some of the concerns that the community had. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Superintendent or members, is that that's still ongoing and that the DEP hasn't made any decisions yet. They do say that there's a process after that, so even after those conversations are done with DCR, then it goes back and there's a process that needs to be completed. We asked DEP if we could be involved in that to make sure that the town had a seat at the table beyond just the DCR conversations, but so that the legislative delegation could actually get involved in that and advocate. Each one of us in the delegation are constantly advocating for additional commercial development, for recognizing kind of what the master plan is of the community, and we know that you're up against that, that registration number. So whatever we can do to be helpful in that, we'll continue to advocate, but I think, getting a full understanding from you on what that number is actually going to look like and give us a point that we can go and advocate for with the DEP.
It's kind of unusual that the DCR, is Department of Conservation and Recreation, are the ones that are collecting data as opposed to economic development or something. When the state wanted to put Siemens in, have it, the Walpole expansion,
Right.
and wanted us to provide taxpayer money to subsidize that whole effort and to have a heavy water user come in and sort of disrupt our system, it was the economic development people who were involved, who understand about the Route 1 corridor project
Right.
and businesses, what towns already are built out, what towns have available land and will be expected to develop. And it's just a concern that somebody who specializes in recreation would be given the job to assess and forecast the needs for water for the business community and for the economic development of Walpole. And I don't know, maybe the staff knows more than we've known about it. I guess you've sent some communication, but there's never been like a formal meeting or us being asked to write up a report and list all the projects and all the things coming and so forth.
There has, and we've been in constant dialogue with the DCR since approximately around June. Some of the projects that have been ongoing were in the permitting process, they were in the planning process. Some were already boots on the ground and actually being built. I have an email from the DCR this morning because back in September, I did give them, working with Rick, I did give them an updated schedule of all the proposed projects that Walpole actually did have on the books and how many million gallons a day that they would be using. And I just I'll read you the email that I got back from her this morning because I'm in anticipation of tonight's conversation. She said, "I apologize for not being in touch sooner. I did have a conversation with Walpole's new town planner a few weeks ago. I believe I have all the information that I need. I just have not been able to get back to the forecast. I do need to wrap up the forecast within the next few weeks, and I'll be in touch with you with a revised draft forecast." So I have been working in conjunction with the DCR, and what's gonna happen is the DCR is gonna submit a draft, they're gonna send it back to us. We're gonna take a look at it and make sure that all the projects and all the flows and all the values are legitimate as far as we're concerned. And then I believe that report will be forwarded over to the DEP, and the DEP will take a look look at it, and then they'll be responsible for making their decision on whether or not, or how they want to address our water management permit at that time. And then will be issued in order to complete. And that's actually the timetable of what's going to transpire. And then as soon as the order to complete has been issued, we can address the issues that are necessary, whether or not, whether or not we have an issue with it. It could I'm not saying it could possibly be in our favor. It could possibly be detrimental to what we feel is gonna be the growth and potential and for the use. And we also have, our engineers, Wright Pierce, they're involved. Rick's been ongoing, this has been an ongoing thing for many years with having to update our water management permit and so on and so forth. So we do have our ducks in a row. And we would absolutely love for our senators and representatives to advocate for us if, in fact, it's detrimental.
Bernie, on the list of the projects, do we have an estimate of what our daily demand would be? Average daily demand, is it?
2.74 million
All right,
gallons a
and
day.
so 2.74 is, and these are projects, you can see them down the center of town and some that haven't quite started. The things that we've been hearing, and I think one of the reasons that the board has had a concern is that we've heard that they're thinking more in the lines of 2.53 million gallons a day, which we haven't exceeded that, but we've come close if you look back the last few years. And then when you look, I mean, just in the downtown, you're well over 500, 600 units, depending on how far out you want to go.
Mr. Chairman, I do have some averages that going back to 2016. So, for instance, in 2016, our average was 2.39 million gallons. 2017 was 2.41 million gallons. 2018 was 2.39 million gallons a day. And in 2019, we're at 2.19 million gallons a day.
Yeah, so we've had a low water use this particular year, but you can see that
Wet year.
we've been coming close in our current, or the withdrawal permit that we had that has expired, I believe was what, 3.34, Rick?
Yes.
Million gallons?
Yeah.
I think in that case, they more looked and said, here's what what your wells can do. Now they're looking, saying, this is what we think you need for water, not what but the concern is, as John has said, we're a growing community.
Right.
And you don't have to just go downtown, and you can see, 3 large projects, not to mention just down the street here, we're talking a huge 40B, hasn't started yet, but.
That Cedar Crossing will be, we projected that as 60,100 gallons per day additional as well.
Yeah, I think that basically the staff is obviously complying with all the regulatory requisites and landscape, but it's really, it goes beyond that. Philosophically, there's plenty of water. Sometimes government likes to make scarcities because that makes government important, and we can overtax people and charge them more for water than they should, and they'll be thanking us for it. But that really isn't, I think, where we want to go. The aquifer is such that if we don't pump the water, ultimately, most of that water goes to waste in the ocean. There's no bucket under the ground that saves water. People don't understand that. You don't pump it and use it. It's not like, the concept of conservation is a delay procedure, but it's not really a solution or availing the natural resource to the public the way it should. I think we want, I think one of the things, the MDRA wants people to use their water supply. They're proactive in that. It's unfortunate that somehow there can't be a better mechanism for us to avail ourselves of that without scaring the public or thinking they're being overcharged or Big Brother's taking over the water system, because those are, of course, nonsensical beliefs. But, and the other aspect is, and I speak for the Economic Development Commission, what's said here is somewhat true, but we have a new planner, and she has told me she hasn't given anybody information, doesn't really know it because she just came on board. And she is, in fact, she's a community development director as opposed to a planner. And the Economic Development Commission has never been asked about what businesses may be coming and what our plans are and what the zoning issues on Route 1 are. So there, you know, the regulatory fabric of what's on the ground now in the landscape may be being satisfied, but there's a bigger backdrop to this. And we don't want people making decisions that really don't know Walpole. They don't know the whole mosaic of what's public policy should be here. And we don't know, we haven't done a good job of educating the public in this town about how we can avail ourselves of more water and be protective of the future. And there are obviously people also who don't want any development in the town, they don't want any new business, they don't want any more homes, and they want to use water as a weapon of anti-development. In fact, the first thing people said when a 40B is proposed is, we don't have enough water, we can't give them any water, we're gonna stop them. I mean, but that's really not the job of a water commission, not the job of the town of Walpole.
Right.
And so I think, and there might be something there, if you have it, we'd love to know about it, but I think there should be something the state can do for towns like this. So we're in the necklace of the MWA, we're an MWA community on the sewer side already. There should be a mechanism to make it easier for have a backup hookup with them and have some relief of stress and pressure. If we do have some, we're happy enough to get some new businesses and more jobs between here and Gillette Stadium. Wonderful, we should be able to support that, not tell them they can't come here because our water permit doesn't allow it. And that would be catastrophic. That's the big picture, and we want to get in front of this, and it sounds like it's been going with the staff a little faster than the commissioners are aware of. So we're getting to that point where somebody's gonna come up with a number. That doesn't, the rumors is, it sounds like a low number.
Yeah, it seems that's the way it's going. If I could, Mr. Chairman, just to
Sure.
follow up on that. So it seems that the DEP has been, they've looked kind of historically at water usage, right? I mean, one of the things they cited to us is, you know, Walpole hasn't hit their projected draw on what their growth was, but every community is different. I mean, you can't, it's not cookie cutter, one size fits all. Certainly, the community is going to grow whether some people like it or not. There's going to be economic development in the commercial sector. There's going to be housing. You know, none of this is in a silo, right? As Walpole kind of debates inclusionary zoning, and we see 40Bs that are coming. I mean, this is a reality that you have to deal with as commissioners. We don't want to be buttoned up to that number just because Mass DEP says, well, this is historically what they've used. So the message is loud and clear. I don't know, you know, statutorily, we don't have a lot of control over it. But to use the bully pulpit, I mean, we mobilized fairly quickly when Glenn, I think, brought the issue to us about the MWRA assessment on the Massport betterment, for lack of a better term. The delegation was able to mobilize quickly and kind of get some answers on that and advocate. So presumably if DCR, you know, comes back with a report that is not, you know, not what the town sees, you know, as something that's productive for the community, then, you know, we'll just have to go right back to it. And whether it's to bring in, you know, bring DEP down here, to have the commissioners go up into, you know, into Boston and meet and talk about each of the individual projects and proposals, and if that's what we have to do, we're prepared to do it.
Well, I'm a little bit confused about the role. The woman kind of contacts us abstractly, sends an email to somebody and gets some information from another person. She's like putting together a little soup on her own, and on the side, no one knows what the recipe is and what's going into it. I mean, I don't really think that's the right way to do this. I mean, why doesn't she, if somebody's doing this, I'd like to have her come down here and talk to us and you know, give our economic development, other groups, a chance to tell her what's really going on, try to educate her. I don't know who it is. I just, it's, the term recreation
Sure.
concerns me.
Raises flags.
I'm an
yeah.
economist, you know, so I worry about that.
Yeah.
If a recreation expert is making the decision about the economy and the future planning of Walpole, it isn't right.
I think the DEP, and you know, you would probably know more than I do as far as your dealings with them, but it seems like it's very formulaic, right? I mean, it's a bureaucratic agency. They stick to a formula and a process. I don't know this for a fact, but it seems to me that DCR is kind of an extra layer to make sure that the town does have some input outside of just what that DEP formula or decision-making process is. So I don't know that that's going to be bad for us until we get a report back from them. But certainly, you know, for us to understand the process, I think is key. So the delegation will go back and figure out if that is set in stone or if there's any leeway on it.
Yeah, if this individual, if this individual is the one responsible for Walpole, I'd like to know who it is and have her communicate not just with the town staff, but with the elected water commissioners, who may have a different philosophy and have a different basket of information than the town staff does. Because typically, in my experience in government, the staff has to worry about the protocol, what's going on with the rules and everything, as opposed to the big picture.
Why would you keep information that you had from the staff? If you have information, why haven't you given it to the staff?
Because I had no idea you're working on a list, Rick.
No, in
I
terms
know,
of-
no one in the board knows about that
No,
list
in
till
terms-
tonight.
Yeah, that's not true.
Well,
Oh, I saw the list.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been public for many years.
This has been ongoing
Yeah.
since
Yeah.
before I landed in.
Speaking of
Well-
not knowing anything. all
Mr.
this-
Chairman, I get a question from
Well,
the
I was gonna give it
All
a
the
chance to
economic
go.
development, why didn't the previous planners or this particular,
good
why
question.
didn't this person have the information? Because they were part of this process, this demand projection process throughout for the last 10 years.
Or we can defend, we're not saying the town
Well, John,
staff
if
did
you're
any
gonna
wrong.
start throwing
Mr.
stones
Chairman.
at staff and everybody
No,
else.
no,
Rick, please, we don't have
Please
to
what?
handle this at this
I
meeting.
took us a question.
The point is, Walpole has had 12 different
You
planners
sit
over
here with your
15
little
years.
innuendos, John, and
And-
say
and
the
they all
staff
have
is,
had
you
that
basically
time.
said the staff is keeping secrets
No,
from
no,
the
no one
commission.
said that.
Oh, yeah, John.
All right, I want to give a chance, I know, Patrick, you have a question, a comment?
I do.
All right,
I
so-
got questions. Okay. You're a member of the Great and General Court, and you're elected, like we are, and you have to answer to your constituents, like we do. Okay. So why did the state legislature give DEP this type of authority?
Predates me, I don't know.
Okay.
I will say that somebody has to have the authority. I don't know why, it was chosen to be DEP. It seems to be within their purview, but
Well, from what I can understand, I actually, you shouldn't ask a question you don't know the answer to, right? There's a town called Ipswich. Anybody? Yeah. Well, I guess they pumped their river dry, and it frightened everybody.
say that again, I'm sorry, I missed that. Who did?
The town of Ipswich
Ipswich, correct, right.
pumped their.
It's a case study.
Right.
It set off all kinds of alarms. So they come to us now. Of course, they've come to other people too, but in our situation, we have the Neponset River. I think in their minds, they think we're gonna pump it dry. But we've been around a long time, over 100 years. We have records showing that there's a bigger flow in the Neponset River now than there was back 100 years ago. And we've been pumping. Why would they put a restriction on us when this affects, I know John is concerned with economics, I'm concerned with the quality of life in my town. And people like to water their lawns, they like to use water, it's part of what we do. So why would the state want to restrict a town like Walpole? That's my question.
Yeah, and I don't know that they do, right? I mean, we've all heard rumors about where they're going with the permit. We haven't seen it yet. The Water Management Act was something that, to address issues like they had in Ipswich, right? I mean, they wanted to make sure that when you had economic development housing, that you didn't have to tell them, I'm sorry, we don't have the water. So the DEP and through the legislature and the WMA said, look, we have to address this and permit, municipalities on what the actual usage should be. I don't know what maybe you know more than I do, but I don't know what the DEP is gonna come down with for a permitted number. So I don't know that they're gonna restrict until they do.
It just seems to me that, we've been running the Sewer and Water Commission, or the Water Department for, like I say, 100 years.
Right.
And we've always done a pretty good job, but if we're restricted on our use, well, then our revenue is diminished, which means we need to raise the rates, which our constituents are not happy about.
Right.
So what am I gonna say? I blame you?
You wouldn't be the first person to blame me on a lot of issues, I'll tell you that. No, look, I mean, and that's what we're here for. You guys empower us. I mean, we work for the town of Walpole. So, you know, when you tell us, look, this permanent number that they're talking about is no good, then we have to go to work and advocate.
Okay.
And we have to shake the trees and say, this doesn't work for the community. The amount of intelligence and institutional memory in this room is worth more than anything that the DEP can tell
Well, you're
us,
good.
right?
You're good.
But sometimes you need folks to shake the trees and advocate, and that's what we're here for.
What can you do for us, really? Seriously, there's 4 reps here, right?
Yeah, I think the action item for us is to work with you as part of the process. And if DCR comes back with a report that doesn't look like it's, it's positive for Walpole, then we need to come up with a strategy on bringing DEP down, having a series of meetings and really articulating exactly what you've said tonight. I just don't know that we're at that point in the process.
Because we need your help,
Yeah.
because it's a
That's what we're
state
here for,
problem.
absolutely.
The
And we-
Commonwealth is doing that.
And we hear from the same constituents, that you do with that, right? It's a quality of life issue, it's a revenue issue, it's a future growth issue, and they call our office, they email us too. So we're all on the same page, we want to be as helpful as we can.
So my cry to you is, please help us.
Yes, of course.
Glenn, do you have any?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, guys, thank you for all being here. I appreciate your efforts now and in the future. The point that I want to drive home is that, yeah, we're not up to the 2.53 million, and so they kind of look at our numbers and they say, well, Walpole's down a little bit lower. If we lower it to 2.53, they can get away with that. But the point that I want to drive home is why that number is so low. It's because of the efforts that we've put forth. We have a strong I&I program, so we don't just encourage reckless water use. We have a water management program in the summer, so we don't let people just water the lawns, whenever they want. We have a new block rate billing system that discourages that people pay a lot. They pay for the water they use, and they pay the more they use when they're watering lawns, the more they pay, and that has worked almost to the detriment of our budget, but it's worked really well. We've gotten our numbers down to a really comfortable level. We have a tight system. We spend money on our infrastructure, so it almost feels like we've gotten to that point, and now they're going to say, oh, good job, Walpole, now you can't ever go above it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait a minute, we got there because we're being responsible.
Right.
Don't penalize us for being responsible. And they've asked us to be responsible, and other towns may or may not have done some of the things we've done, and we've done them, and they're maybe treating us the same way as they're treating the town that hasn't,
Right.
that maybe was more reckless, and I want to drive the point home that the responsibility that we've taken upon ourselves should be rewarded on some level.
Yeah, don't punish us for doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
This town has historically done everything that the DEP has, the policies that they've placed have reflected that, and as I echo Glenn's sentiment exactly, that, we're being chastised and criticized, and possibly, we haven't seen the result yet, but it just seems like we're gonna need some advocacy in the future if that possibly happens.
Yeah, could you imagine the the reverse incentive there if a town like Walpole's doing the right thing, the message that would send if they then, lower your permit for those reasons. If I'm in a community, okay, fine, everybody use the water, we're not gonna conserve. I know you wouldn't do that as stewards of our water here in Walpole, but I mean, that's what would be created by a decision like that.
Yeah.
One of the examples is, and Rick, you've mentioned this, is like unaccounted for water. And there is, you get a leak, you're not measuring it, that sort of thing. The goal is 10%, and ours is down 6%, so there's an example of what we're doing, very well. And as we've all indicated here, we see the future, and yet a number that doesn't seem to match what we think we're going to need. So this is a prime example.
It just seems that their number is purely arbitrary.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be a lot of logic or thought that was put into that number. And I think that's the most frustrating thing is this town has spent, like as these guys have said, this town has spent a lot of money on infrastructure to make improvements, so we wouldn't be that town.
Right.
We probably would have been almost better to run 30% unaccounted for water, not meter anything, not ever fix a leak, and then you have a goal to work towards.
Right.
We really have nowhere to go because we're pretty much at the top of the water supply.
And I remember
As far as I'm
that maybe 20 years ago, we were running unaccounted for water around in the 20%. And, to get down in the 6, you've done something. I mean, Bernie just tells us at every meeting, here's the leaks, and they jump right on them so that you know, we're not wasting water. So, anyways, John,
So-
Mr. Spillane, you haven't had a chance.
No, I don't have too much. I'd just like to thank you all for coming in and for what you can do in the future. And I think it's still a little early in the process to find out what they're gonna.
It is early, but, you know, again, we appreciate you guys reaching out and bringing us into the process a little early, because, again, in order for us to be effective advocates, we have to know, you know, we have to have these open lines of communication. So I think it is very important, to your point, that you guys, you know, got a hold of us and making sure that we're aware of it, so that if there are any opportunities, you know, as the senator said, you know, DEP sits very, you know, cut and dry process, but if there's opportunities to influence the process as it moves forward, we'll be able to take advantage of any of those opportunities. So we're grateful.
If any of the other aides
I wanna
from-
make a comment.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to give a
Oh,
chance to
oh,
the
yeah,
other
go ahead.
aides if they had any comments that they wanted to.
No, I absolutely second that. To be able to open up the sign of communication relatively early on in the process it's absolutely integral for us to be able
Okay.
to know what's going on, so we truly appreciate that. Thank you.
All right.
A
John,
key thing, I
see
think,
it.
what Rick Mattson mentioned is that they seem to be doing the forecasting, historical forecasting, just drawing a linear line from what's happened in the past, and it just isn't a correct way, particularly in Walpole, because of the growth factor, because of the recent, we take the delta of what's changed just from that list, project that to the next year, you'd get a much higher number. And that's what's going on here today. So we don't have any wiggle room on the downside if their estimates are low. So I think we need a better forecasting that's forward-looking and taking effect that this is a growth town, and it's got all this activity going on, and it's lean on its bottom line.
And we have to make sure that that new growth is appropriately weighted. You know,
Yeah.
that, you know,
That's-
DEP understands that, that is a major factor for us moving forward.
And I would say, again, I get, you guys probably aren't looking that depth to get into it, but again, the MWRA is a wonderful backup for us if there is, you know, because that really allows us the flexibility if something really happens and we need a lot more water. We can tap that.
John?
I think, I lost my train of thought. It's almost like they're trying to reduce water consumption, water withdrawal, so we'll get in with the MWRA's water, which I really want no part of. We have enough water if they allow us to pump it. We have MWRA for sewer, and it's sky high. And once they get a hold of you like that, you have no control, you know?
I just want to take an opportunity, if someone in the audience, Cliff, I see you've got your hand raised, if you want to say anything.
I do, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. There is absolutely no question, and thank you to the delegation. There is absolutely no question that the Ipswich River issue created a panic amongst the entire, we'll call it regulatory agencies. I also had the great pleasure over the years of going to the meetings with Mr. Mattson, and it became very evident that in those meetings, they didn't have a clue how to deal with it. And so what they did is they created arbitrary and capricious rules, even though they were floating rules and they hadn't locked them in. What I'm going to recommend, Mr. Chairman, through you to the body and to the superintendent, is that you take your list and you put, working with the EDC and others in common knowledge, and you load the pro forma end of it, the Ghost of Christmas Future, so that you show the highest potential usage that is available to you from a perspective. If 55% of the town is, quote, buildable, then throw a pro forma on the things you know that are gonna happen, the 100 units downtown, 1,000 units in XYZ, and you add that, so that if they are still in the arbitrary mood, you end up being on the right side of seeking that withdrawal permit. The other is not to underestimate the value of our sole source aquifer. That is, and I'm gonna get parochial for a moment, that is our water, not theirs. And you ought to be able to take a defense along those lines somehow. And I thank you.
Anyone else in the audience? Josette?
Again, thank you, fellows, for all coming. I'm obviously a taxpayer, I'm also on the FinCom. My concern, and as you're talking about, you can
I could, Mr. Chairman, through you, so
Sure.
we haven't been given a timeline, I don't know if Bernie, if
have it as
you
well.
have one, it seems to be kind of floating, which is
Like
one of the,
everything else.
which is one of the problems, exactly. But we'll take that back and see if there's a concrete timeline. From what we were told, they were waiting on the DCR, and Walpole conversations to be fed back to
Correct.
DEP before they even start that next phase. So I think we have some time, but there's no concrete timeline that's been established for us at least.
So you gotta find out if there is one, what
Absolutely.
it is, so you can be as accurate as possible for
Correct.
us.
Yes, thank you.
you.
Okay,
Mr.
well,
Chairman, if I can add just
Okay, Bernie.
one thing to that. So in the Boston Harbor watershed, there's numbers 17 permits, there's 9 public supply permits, there's 7 golf irrigation permits, and there's 1, as they call, other permits. And these were all supposed to have a final permit issuance of 2018. So that's the timeframe that we're working with right now.
2 years
Typical
back.
government timeline, right?
All right, I don't want to belabor the issue. If there's any other comment that the delegation wants to leave us with, otherwise, thank you all for coming.
So I just say, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity and thank you for raising these issues. Message received loud and clear. We know it's a huge priority. Use us, give us all the information that you have. We're all blessed with great staff and we're working on this. The delegation actually meets regularly. We talk just about every day on a lot of issues pertaining to Walpole. So continue to advocate. You get a great staff and whatever we can do, just let us know.
Thank
If
you
we
very much.
follow up, we'll follow up through you to the
Yes.
delegation
Yep.
center.
Yep,
Thank you
that's
so
fine.
much.
And it's
All right.
raining out there tonight, so the wells are filling up, so I appreciate it.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay. All right. We get back to our agenda here. Policy review number 1, relief from water charges. This is 291 East Street. I mean, it appears the water went through the meter and,
It does, Mr. Chairman.
yeah, I don't know that there's anything,
The meter was tested and everything, right?
Pardon me?
The meter was tested.
not this particular one. No, that's the
this one.
subsequent one.
They're
This
not-
one
they're
appears to be a
actually-
toilet malfunction.
Yeah, they're not testing the actual, meters.
Where we at?
They're just saying that they, because they had an issue and it was, it was an oopsie that they felt that they did not need to, or they should pay their bill, so.
Well,
Because
our
of why?
policy,
Oopsie, or.
it's a technical term.
I got it.
They didn't catch it, they didn't catch a toilet that was leaking,
So,
basically.
Mr. Chairman, can I just chime in? I mean, in the past, one time in the past, since we've added the block rates, we did allow folks to go back to a lower block. So they're still paying for the water, but not in that 4th tier. So this might be a case where you have a toilet running for weeks on end where we've done it. And I just, I'm sympathetic to the situation. and-
My only concern there is in that one particular instance, we had some culpability. We were delayed in getting our bills out, but really, and we've gotten that back under control. This
Yeah.
is, and they did have a silent leak, if you recall.
Yeah.
This is a case where the toilet's running.
Sure.
And
Right.
our policy has been in the
At some
past.
point, you have to have responsibility.
They're on sewage too, right?
Yeah, and,
So it's sewer and water bill.
That's correct. And if, in the past where we have shown some flexibility, if it was water that was used outside or, a pipe burst, then obviously the water didn't go
Well,
into the sewer,
this is-
we would make adjustments on the sewer, but we have.
I guess on the culpability question, I don't totally understand it, but the Old Post Road repeaters were down for 3 weeks. And how did that affect our ability to understand what was going on in the property?
And that, it would be nice that we can do this, but where you have something that you ought to know that you've got a problem, and I think it really, we don't want to get into the position of because we've heard all along for the 20-plus odd years that I've been on and that you've been on, Pat, where our stance has been, the water goes through the meter, we're willing to test the meter, but it's owed, and they can deal with the collector's office if they can negotiate a payment plan or whatever.
We do have some fault here, though,
I-
because our system should show the abnormal use of water.
and
And we should notify the homeowner about that.
Yeah, but we shouldn't be required to. know
Yeah, but
that.
that's part of this, when they sold us this system, that was one of the selling points.
And we do notify.
Well,
Bernie,
did we
we do
noti-
notify, and
We
if,
do notify.
and there are
Did you notify
cases
this
where
person?
if a system's
I believe
down,
that this system was down, Patrick, and it wasn't anything, from the office or anything. It was actually, I believe we had to buy a whole new transmitter for this situation.
So the transmitter wasn't working? So
Not-
you couldn't see?
Not at this time.
Okay, I think
Not
we
at this
have
time.
some liability here. I don't know how much, but I think we do have something.
I would like that we make a motion that we send a letter saying that we're sympathetic on the issue, but if the water goes to the
I don't think
meter,
they want our sympathy. eh?
that our policy has been that it,
Is that the motion?
so, yes, that's
I'll
my
second
motion.
it.
All right. Is there any further discussion?
I'd just be interested to hear, John, do you have an opinion on the matter? or-
No, I agree with Bill.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No,
Okay, so we have a four,
I'm gonna change my vote to no, actually.
okay, 3-0. Policy review number 2. Yes, it is. Are you Mr. Sigliano?
No comment.
No, so are you here for a particular item on our agenda, or?
I'd like to see what's going on here.
Oh, well, you're welcome to. Okay, so it's,
I'm a resident.
well, we're happy to have you. We meet twice a month, and we're happy to come. All right, this, we have an issue with 104 Pine Street where they had a rather large bill.
rather large also.
Yes, I looked at their water use for the last 10 bills, and just going back, I'll start, this was back in December of 2017 going forward. You know, their usage, 614 cubic feet, 719, then you get into the summer, 3,019, 4,600, then it starts as you go into the fall, 2,100, then it goes down to 1,100. You're in the winter, 685, 839, then it starts up. Their bill came out in late in the summer. It was for the April to the July, 2,156. There's a pattern there.
Just for
Then you
clarity.
get to their most recent, 12,180 cubic feet.
What month?
That's for a 90-day period, July to June. It's clearly, they do water their lawn, which is fine. Now, it appears when we look at the actual records, they're doing it every day, not following the thing. But you can see a normal pattern of, during the low usage months, their usage is low, goes up in the summer, goes back down. And to go from, well, the highest before was 4,000 cubic feet to 12,000 clearly indicates that they've got a problem someplace in their system. And I think that's what, when I spoke to Judy about that, she's spoken to them.
Exactly.
At this point, again, now did we alert them to?
We did, and we actually told them that we could take the meter out, test the meter, because they thought that the meter may have malfunction. And meter came back tested 99.7% accurate.
This is just for the audience. Meters run slow. If they don't run fast. They're a mechanical device. The gears wear down. A tooth, gets knocked off. It runs slow. So it didn't surprise that if there was a problem with the meter, it would have been under-registering, not over-registering. And in fact, there was no problem with the meter. I don't know if anyone has any.
Well, I'd like to hear from, I know he has no comment, but I'd really like to know how there'd be such a change in the seasons. And,
Well, I know that Judy has talked to him and say, I think you've got a problem with your irrigation
okay,
system.
one more thing. He only has one meter, right?
Uh,
Does he have an irrigation meter also?
No.
So he has one meter.
Right,
So the best we could do for him is obviously this water's not going in the sewer.
He's not on sewer.
Oh, okay, so that
He's
takes,
got, we got a copy of
okay.
his bill here.
no problem then,
Yeah.
at all.
I mean, I just was curious to look at the past. One of the things that he had said is that he hadn't gotten any notice. Well, obviously, we have, this is the second year that we've had the in-planning block rates, because he was complaining about that. We do have rate hearings on the bill, and if we do state what the rates are, and so it's not like that we, I mean, he's mentioned some concern about he wasn't alerted.
Prior knowledge.
This is the second bill that he's gotten in this fiscal year with the rates, blocks are all listed in the message area. You know, again, it's unfortunate that he's got a large bill, but the water, as we have in the past, went through the meter. I don't know, Mary, you have anything from the office that you can add?
The question is, we're holding this check because it says full payment.
And it's not full
It's not
payment.
full payment.
So,
So-
are you accepted, or are you giving this as full payment?
No,
No.
we're not accepting his
You could return the check.
$200 check as full payment. So-
I think he wants to make a comment now.
Yes, sir. If you could come to the microphone, you'll be on cable TV.
My name is Ken Sigliano. I'm a property owner at 104 Pine Street, and I have a claim against this board, which is about to be adjudicated, which I expected to be adjudicated. You should have a letter among you about my claim and my suggestion for a settlement. And this afternoon, I visited the town offices to add an addendum to that letter because of a conversation I had with the superintendent on Friday. Thank you.
We do have that letter late mail. Okay, any,
Make a motion if you want.
okay, John?
Make a motion, we return the check and either lien the property or whichever. The water went through the meter was tested almost 100%.
Okay,
We have a policy.
is there a second?
A second.
Well, we have a
Yeah,
motion
yeah,
and a second. We can have discussion now.
Yeah, let's have a discussion on this. What does he think is fair?
Well, he's given us.
Yeah, he's used all this water, right? And what do you think is fair?
$200 check that you
I have a very succinct claim against the board.
Yeah, what
Against the
exactly
water
is it?
department. I'm answering your question, sir. I have a written claim that's very succinct and accurate, that you should have the claim before you, and the demand, and the solution for settlement.
And this,
And my written claim is very precise and should be enough information for you to adjudicate my claim.
But, okay, but you used all this water. You didn't
Have you
just
read the
use
claim?
you just didn't use what
Have
you
you
said
read the
here.
claim, sir?
Pardon me?
have you read, I guess. he's
I
asking,
don't
you read
have, that letter is buried here in my, you see it here? No, I have that one.
That's his claim.
Oh, yeah, I have the claim. But he's talking about 4 months, 4 previous months. And yet the bill is for, how many years?
No,
It's how many-
it's for 90 days, and it's, you know, I went through the
And-
amounts, and it has a normal cycle, and then all of a sudden you go to something that's, you know, just
Okay.
totally abnormal.
There seems to be a misunderstanding. I'd like to request that you give my claim letter and the subsequent letter that I delivered
Yes.
this afternoon to your office, to your legal counsel.
Okay.
Thank you.
That we can do. Why don't we do that?
Okay, we do that.
I don't know, is that even necessary?
don't have to.
I don't think that's necessary.
I think the gentleman has asked that we do that.
But we add the legal fees to his bill.
Okay.
Billy, I made a motion and I got a
And
second.
we
here,
did
too.
get a second.
Yeah, if, do
don't like to
whatever
be
you want with the letter, I
threatened,
guess,
number
that's fine.
All right, well, we do have a motion and second. If, John, if you want to stay with that motion, then we
Yes.
will. Okay.
Could I just repeat the
Could you
motion?
repeat it, please?
It was that we return the check, lien the property if necessary. The water went through the meter was almost 100% correct. The water was used.
The bill stays the same.
All right, and we had a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 500. If you want to have one last word, sir?
Question is, are you going to submit this to your council, town
No.
council?
for interpretation, because obviously you people don't understand or have not read my claim.
I think we have, but,
To Bernie.
Bernie, we'll leave it at you. You can just run it by council to see if there's any issue that we haven't given proper consideration.
I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Policy review number 4, out-of-town delinquent account.
Oh, that
Was
taken care
paid
of
today.
today.
Good, just threatening was good enough. This, by the way, was for delinquent account for $39,000.
I suggest Rick write more letters.
Okay. The last item we have is a discussion, Len, you asked regarding the progress with the rate.
Yeah, I would just defer to the superintendent to see if you have any information whatsoever to
So
pass on.
there's nothing that I have to update you with. We were supposed to have a conference call on Friday. That conference call got canceled on account of, I was unavailable for a water main break on Washington Street. The town administrator was not available as well, so that was canceled.
Sure, it doesn't have to be complicated. I just want to know that they're still working on our questions and.
We are actually gonna have a conference call tomorrow.
Okay, can I just repeat for the
Yes.
purposes, I know we've talked about this and at the last rate hearing, but the issues that concerned me were, I want the rate consultants to analyze our current block rates, to give us an analysis on whether it's a good idea to shift indirect costs, to the minimum administrative charge and how we might go about doing that. So those two things, whether a rate increase is necessary and how much, and the question of multi-units and how we can build them in a fair and equitable way.
In the 88 million.
And the 88 million cubic
Yeah,
feet,
right.
and whether that's an accurate number. You got it, yes,
I
sir.
have it
One
right
of the-
here, and I forwarded it to for the consultant as well. But
All right.
Wonderful, yeah.
One of the
I'm
things,
on top.
on
Thanks,
the
Ben.
large multi-family rates that are effective at, well, Denise is no longer here. I have talked to the assessor just to get a sense of how many condos we have, how many units are in them, just so that we can see the proposal that I made, how much would that impact our revenue? Because obviously, if we cut something down, we gotta make it up somewhere else. So just a progress on that. John?
Bernie,
Sorry.
on Travis Farm,
Yes,
could you instruct your guys how to lock one lock inside the other, so
yes.
either our key will let us in or.
Generally what we do is we'll have a chain, and we'll have the two different locks. So the lock will be inside the lock, so we can,
Yeah, okay. 'Cause
Apparently,
I have
just,
had
we
a
do
couple
that.
complaints about that.
no, we do that with the electric company, the telephone company, so on and so forth, if we have to share common
Okay.
areas.
Because there is a key box there for a place.
just, John, you want to update the rest of the board on the situation with Jarvis Farm?
Oh, I had a couple of calls, a couple of people complaining that live there. People going in there at night and stuff and raising hell.
Yeah,
Okay,
The sign does say it's closed from dusk to dawn.
it is, yeah.
they don't know what dusk is there, that's all. All right, we've completed our agenda. Bernie?
Motion
One
adjourned.
other item.
All right.
As soon as I hear from both the Department of Conservation and Recreation and DEP, I will definitely keep the board updated.
Appreciate that.
Move to adjourn.
We have a second on that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. All right, thank you.